Hi everyone, this is Daniel Moeller, author of Shamanic Qabalah, A Mystical Path to Uniting the Tree of Life in the Great Work from Llewellyn Worldwide Publishing. My book was released December 8th, 2018, which was about a month ago, and it's doing really well so far. I've had some very positive reviews and feedback, and I have a lot going on coming up in the future, going to California to PantheaCon and having my book featured as one of the new Llewellyn authors, as well as being able to have the opportunity to give some presentations, not only at PantheaCon, but as well as East West Bookshop in Mountain View, California. So a lot coming up in the future. I'm still rolling it all out, and at the same time working on two new books, one fiction and one nonfiction. So I hope to be able to have those out as soon as possible and have more content for everyone to absorb. Now, I'm often told by individuals, I have no idea what your book is about, but I'm going to go ahead and try to give it a read anyway. Because the subject matter is quite obtuse. Metaphysical concepts can seem complex, abstract. At the same time, Shamanic Qabalah is a set of terms that is not part of our normal nomenclature, especially here in the Midwest. So let me give a little presentation here as an introduction to Shamanic Qabalah, what it's about, my inspiration for writing it, so on and so forth. So in my opinion, it all goes back to Plato's allegory of the cave, which is recorded in his opus, The Republic. And the allegory of the cave was really a response to a question about education and educating the public in order to create the quote-unquote perfect society. And the allegory of the cave was a sort of a metaphor that was communicated as a response to that question to discuss the nature of reality and the way that we interact with it. And the way the allegory of the cave is described is that really all human beings are, our consciousness, is relatable to a person who is locked up in a cave. And that person is chained down, and all they know is the inside of that cave. And because they're chained down, they can't walk around, they can't move, they are bound. And the only thing that they can see is what's in front of them, which is a series of shadows that are being displayed across the wall, two-dimensional shadows. And Plato puts forth the supposition that what if someone were to release their bounds and discover that these shadows were actually originally you wouldn't even know that they're shadows. You wouldn't even know what a shadow was if that was all you knew. But this person that was freed from their bonds discovers that these are indeed shadows that are created by a light, which comes from a fire behind the wall that the individual's humanity were bound to. And that there are people that are creating these shadows upon the wall. They are creating this reality. So it's this added layer of reality that is beyond the normal perception. And then what if this person that had freed themselves moved even beyond the cave, moved out into the world where the sun existed and the sky and the clouds, fresh air? How would this person go back and communicate this to their brothers and sisters? How would this person be able to have the language to communicate them, to describe to them what reality really is, when that is all they know? Very often they'll just be seen as a madman or raving lunatic. Yeah. The Flammarion engraving was a woodcut created well over a century ago to show a pilgrim who is moving beyond the boundaries of the horizon, which separates the earth and the sky, and moving into a new reality that is based and built upon this machinery of the universe that human beings don't normally see. And I liken this image of the Flammarion engraving of this pilgrim lifting the veil of Maya, of illusion, that surrounds our perceptions, as the one who freed their bonds in the cave. It is an individual who releases themselves, who liberates themselves from the illusion of consciousness and breaks through to the great unknown, to the other side, to the unseen realms, the unseen reality that exists within the universe, that makes the universe tick, that is the absolute truth of what the universe is, with a capital T. And the Flammarion engraving is very interesting because it's an inspirational piece for me. At the same time, it helps us understand that the lifting of the veil of illusion, the breaking of this reality, is part and parcel to the whole idea of the great work, the magnum opus. It is the task of the initiate, the task of the magician, of the mystic, to go beyond what human beings normally consider reality, to push the threshold, and to uncover what is really manifesting in existence. And the great thing about this particular image is that it uses the horizon line as that piece. The horizon is another good symbol, another good idea to describe this unseen reality that I'm speaking of, because the horizon line doesn't actually really exist. The horizon is just a boundary that we see with our perception that separates earth and sky, but you can never get to it. Thus, there really is no separation. And that right there is the key to lifting the veil of illusion that surrounds us, that is often called the Maya, which is often called samsara in the Buddhist tradition. So, throughout time, throughout history, there have been individuals, as far as we know, going back as far as we can understand, to ancient Egypt, and some would even say even before that, if you're a big believer in prehistorical civilizations like Atlantis and Lemuria, that there have been schools called mystery schools traditionally, but they may not have been called that then, of course. Schools that trained people, that trained initiates to be able to perceive reality in the true way, to be able to see beyond our sensory perceptions and communicate with this unseen reality, gain information from this unseen reality to help benefit their own lives and the lives of humanity, the lives of the people. And these mystery traditions have continued throughout all time, all the way to this very day, especially in the Victorian age, due to the rise of spiritualism and the interest in the esoteric and occult fraternal organizations. That these mystery schools had a resurgence, especially in Western culture. As you see here in this middle image is a picture of Madame Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society, who sought to find the one sole truth which existed throughout all religions. And then here on the right-hand side is a picture of me, my wife, and our mystery school. So one of those fellows in the back, the fellow in the white hair, was an individual that I had met quite a few years ago named John Nichols, who not only was an expert and teacher in Tantra, but as well as spiritual archaeology, as well as Egyptology. His vernacular for understanding Egyptian hieroglyphics goes beyond my understanding. He's an amazing individual. And he was the one who really pushed me and my wife to take the leap into not only having a mystery school created, but put ourselves through the initiation called pathworking, which is having a relationship with the tree of life, which I'll get into in just a second, and allowed us to open up to those unseen realms in a whole new way. And we did it in our group in a lodge setting where we all learned from each other. We all utilized each other as a community, supported one another. And these are my peeps. And these are the people that were a part of what became my book, Shamanic Qabalah. So, why Shamanic? Why Kabbalah? What does this have to do with anything that I've stated so far? Well, shamanism really is kind of the brass tacks root of every spiritual tradition. The first peoples on this planet were shamanic people. Shamanism is not just about Native American mythology or even just indigenous spiritual folkloric healing. Shamanism is really tapping into that aspect that each and every human being has, which is that yearning to have a direct relationship with the natural world. And it's founded on a few principles, one of those being that every single thing in existence is conscious. This is not far off from the Buddhist teaching that everything has the capability of achieving enlightenment, of achieving Buddhahood. That has also means every human being around you. That means a rock. It means a butterfly. It means the carpet that you're sitting on. Everything has a consciousness. It has an animated essence to it that you can be in relationship with. Shamanism also is traditionally about moving into those unseen realms and using ecstatic states such as trance or drumming or plant medicines to move a person's consciousness into those unseen realities that gain information and return with that information in order to serve the community. That is the difference between, I believe, a shamanic practitioner and just a run-of-the-mill sorcerer. Shamanic practitioners will always be in service to community. That is the only reason to really travel astrally or through dream time into these other realities, is to get useful information, which is why I respect the shamanic arts so much. I myself am a sanctioned teacher in the Pachacuti Mesa tradition. As you can see, I'm all labeled with the Chicana of the Peruvian tradition. That is one of my primary modes of my faith walk, and it is the primary shamanic art that I practice. Moving forward into Kabbalah. Now, Kabbalah is ancient Judaic mystical practice. Some would say that it even predates Judaism as we understand it. There are even some schools of thought that believe that this is the original wisdom that was given to Adam from God, or that Moses received on Mount Sinai, so on and so forth. By and large, Kabbalah is basically a series of mystical practices, including symbolism, that allows one to unlock those areas in the subconscious mind, that opens up those doorways to get out of the cave, as it were, to lift the veil of illusion, to move into the unseen realities and gain information that is useful to the growth and development and evolution of the human being. Kabbalah is based upon the principle of reception. That's literally what Kabbalah means. It means to receive. And the whole essence of it is to open oneself up and to use some symbolism and other methods to be like a flower ready to drink the light of the sun, to allow that unseen reality, if you want to call spirit, soul, to move into your consciousness, to absorb it completely so that you can receive the information of the unseen. Now, Kabbalah has a primary symbol system called the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life is a symbol, or rather a composite symbol made up of many other symbols that is really a series of spheres, of 10 spheres called Sephiroth. And these 10 spheres represent the various stages or emanations of creation. They represent the various levels of God coming into manifestation, which is this reality. It starts with the very top, Keter, and it's numerically designated from 1 to 10. And 10 is at the very bottom, which is Malkut. Malkut is the kingdom. This here, what we are experiencing in this elemental reality of earth, air, fire, and water, this is Malkut. So any type of foray into understanding the tree of life, you must always begin there at Malkut, which is this reality, which means all work is done rooted in the reality of your life, in the practicality of understanding how does this actually serve my purpose here on earth? How does this help me benefit, how does this information help benefit other people and those around me? And you move into experiencing those emanations through these various lines and pathways, which are literally just called the paths of the tree of life. And this is what path working is. Path working is moving through those roadways, those pathways that are emblematic of the relationship of these various levels of existence of the Sephiroth, and allowing the symbol sets that correspond and correlate to each path and Sephiroth to open up aspects of your own consciousness, to be keys to unlock the door that will bring information your way into your life, whether it be through dreams or through just synchronicity or other manifestations that come your way. So really what the tree of life is, it is, some call it a map of the universe or a map to God. But at the same time, it is also a map to yourself. It's a map to your own consciousness. For we can only have a relationship with the unseen reality of the universe, of God, of Source, or the great mystery, through ourselves and through the auspices of our own sensory paradigm that exists for our reality matrix. We are the only ones that can break through our own illusion. This, in essence, is the path of Dharma in the Buddha. This is the way forward, the road, the middle way of trying to lift all of these nuances of illusion that keep us from being at one with the rest of the universe daily, and moving forward into a more peaceful but also integrated mode of experiencing the world around us. Some people utilize the Tree of Life in magical workings. Shamanic Qabalah and the way that I interact with the Tree of Life is in a more mystical context. I don't try to utilize the Tree of Life in order to change the world around me, more so than just trying to have a relationship with God or the universe at large, much as I would have a relationship with my own wife. I don't get into relationship with my wife or my children or other human beings just to change them and find a way to change myself through them. That's not fair to them, and it's not fair to me. My sole goal of my particular spiritual work is to have a relationship with God for the sake of just having a relationship with God and just seeing what comes out of it. So this, in essence, is what is called the Great Work. The Great Work is literally Greek for the magnum opus. And it is really the path forward of illumination. It is about taking the conscious mind, which is represented here by the sun, and the subconscious mind, which is represented there by the moon below that sun, and uniting them together so that our conscious lives and the unseen realms are integrated into a holistic way of perceiving and interacting with the world around us and with ourselves in such a way that we can move forward without being burdened by samsara, without being burdened by the illusion of existence, and hence really to alleviate as much suffering in our being as possible. Here's an image by Alex Gray, which probably more kind of represents the idea of the full integration of the great work of understanding, in essence, what is happening, this illusion that we live in, and this separateness that we have of Daniel here speaking to you through this camera and through your computer is not this separate being and entity, but we are really all one and the same thing. That everything in the universe is one interaction of the Godhood having a relationship with itself. And we are just the disparate pieces of that interacting within that participation, because it's no fun if we remember that we are all basically God making this all happen together. It's fun, in a sense, to forget, or at least it helps us to have that interaction, to have that illusion of separation for the sake of then finding a way to reunite again. It's this, what the some Hindu texts have called the Yoga Spandakarika, the sacred tremor of existence. It's like a flowing of a tide back and ebb and flow. The universe works in that way, and so does consciousness. And this is the way creation works. It is this flowing inward and outward, inward and outward. It's a dance, a great, beautiful, mysterious dance. So as I began this path working with my fellow initiates, we began to see that the tree of life and all of the ways in which that it's broken out through its various symbol sets of the numbers that are attributed to it, the tarot cards that are attributed to each pathway and Sephiroth, as well as the Hebrew letters and astrological correlations, had a lot of correspondences with the Peruvian tradition, of specifically the Pachacuti Mesa tradition that I follow, but other shamanic traditions as well. But I was finding so many correlations between the two that it was impossible for us to ignore them. And we began integrating our rituals as a cohesion between Peruvian shamanic work with the mesa, which is the primary altar and symbol set that is used in the Pachacuti Mesa tradition and Peruvian Curandismo, but also the work of the mystery schools and the Western mystery tradition and their various rituals, and blended them all together. And so we went through this initiatory path working, which was using the altar set of the Pachacuti Mesa tradition, but modified to fit our purposes of the path working to include the Judaic mystical concepts of Kabbalah, and use that altar set as a sort of a portal, an opening into the aspect of consciousness that represents this world, the elemental aspect of this world, because that's what the shamanic altars are very good at doing, is representing the elemental basics of earth, air, and fire and water, of kind of rooting us to this reality, but also being a pathway into other more transcendent realities, which was represented by the tree of life. So our path working allowed us to be able to merge these two and move into these new realities, exploring the tree of life as psychonauts, as pushing the threshold of consciousness to try to find out how far couldn't we go. And this process took about 3 years. At one point I totally wanted to give up, because it can be pretty daunting for the mind. You need a strong community to do this work. You need a good set of information to help get you through the work, and a lot of reading material to help give you a basic of understanding of what it is that you're encountering, and a strong ritual framework. Ritual is very good for not only settling the mind and getting it into the right space, but protecting you from unwanted influences and protecting you from being overwhelmed or overburdened with the amount of information that may be coming in. So I merged all this information together, and I wrote it all down in the best way possible that hopefully would not only be a good introduction to Kabbalah for those that are interested in finding out about it or finding out more, but also bringing in as much information as possible into one volume. Because sometimes I had to research 5 or 6 different volumes in order to get the Hebrew letter correspondence or the Tarot correspondence, and then, well, what do all the pathways actually mean? Because I understand the Sephirot. So I tried to get all of this in one volume as much as possible, as well as blend in the shamanic component. And then on top of that, still try to find a philosophy, a foundational philosophy for for the reader to be able to act as their sort of foundation, the undergirding of why is it that we are doing this work? What is the great work? And what does it mean to be an initiate? Does it just mean that you can just be a person that just goes and takes a bunch of drugs and thinks that you're just going to, become one with God? Or does this actually mean that you must respectfully enter the relationship of this process with a certain amount of character and conduct, a code with which you should present yourself so that your body and your mind can receive this information from the unseen realities that exist around us. So Shamanic Qabalah is really meant to be a sort of manual for being a psychonaut, for being an explorer of the human psyche and the psyche of the universe, the realities that exist out there that we have yet to really drawn an exact topography of. We have a few models that exist. The Tree of Life is one of those. But it is my contention that instead of focusing so much on pulling our resources for pushing ourselves outwardly into the universe and colonizing the physical reality, we need to conserve what we have on this planet and focus on traveling into the inner realities, which is so much more vast than the outer universe. It's so much more infinite. And at the same time, we will find new vistas of experience within ourselves, which will help propel us to a new level of evolution and interaction with other intelligences that may exist in the universe. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation, Lifting the Veil with Shamanic Qabalah. I appreciate your time. And if you haven't picked up my book yet, you can find it on Llewellyn.com as well as Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. Everywhere, anywhere you pick it up, please give a rating and a review. You can also go to Goodreads and give a review as well. It's always very helpful. The more that I have, the more that the internet can find me, and I can put food on the table so I can feed those kids because they're hungry for some reason, apparently. Kids eat. So thank you for all of your time. I appreciate all the support that I've been given so far in light, love, and sacred relationship.